This little jewel was designed as a means of rescuing vegetable scraps, and in particular the scraps generated from making Russian Olivier salad. But it doesn't have to be made with scraps. You can make it with whole pieces of vegetables, of course. It can function as a small appetizer course, but it's truly otherworldly as a vegetable side dish to accompany lobster thermidor, one of my all-time favorite recipes.
I have peeled potatoes, carrots, and some cauliflower that I just broke off into big florets. Now, you're cutting brunoise or dicing vegetables neatly. Of course, the first step is that you need to square them up. If you don't have nice blocks to work with, you're not going to have finished perfect squares. But the question now is, what do you do with these end pieces? Of course, you can just use them for mashed potatoes in the case of potatoes. Other vegetables, often it's harder to think of something to use them for, except maybe soups. But I'm going to show you something here that's really delicious. Of course, you don't have to use end scraps. You can just use whole vegetables. But here's a perfect use for these scraps. And these are the vegetables that I'm using for making the Olivier salad. So here's our blocks for cutting the nice brunoise. Here's some scraps to begin with. Cauliflower, in this case, for the Olivier that I'm making, has a lot of waste on it because this is the way it's going to be cut. You're going to go like this, and this is the piece you want with the stem on it. The rest of this is we're not going to use. Now, these are the pieces that we ended up with, the blocks of carrot, this cauliflower cut this particular way, and then we've got this big bowl, equal parts, roughly equal parts. When we weigh it, about 4 ounces, 120 grams of each of these. This is going to get boiled. And get some water up to a boil, salted water. No real magic here. Boil the vegetables, put them in, cover partially, and begin counting the time. And then drain them on a colander, let them sit there until they cool down until they're room temperature. Now that these vegetables have completely cooled down, the reason we want to make sure that they cool down is so they don't cook the egg. What we're going to add here. So that's that. Here's onion. Now, if you're making the Olivier salad, you're going to have some extra canned peas. So I toss a couple of tablespoons of those in too. You don't have to, it's not critical, but you should already have them anyway for making the Olivier. And 2 eggs. And you're going to need to stop and scrape down the sides, of course, a couple times. And you want this fairly much a puree. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, I diced up the 60 grams of bacon. Now, this is very, very lean bacon. This is what it looks like. I've never seen bacon like this in the United States for sale. This comes from Hungary. It's a different animal. So if you can't get bacon like this, and you probably can't, just try to get as lean a bacon as you can, because in the end you don't want tons of bacon fat in this, and also don't get one that's got some weird honey smoke or something. Get plain bacon. I have a very large 28 centimeter non-stick pan here. I'm starting the bacon cooking in it on a very low heat. It's well, not very low, medium low. It's 4 out of 1 to 10. It's on 4. Now, because this bacon is so lean, I'm actually going to add about a tablespoon of that unfiltered sunflower oil to this to help it cook. If you have bacon that's normal bacon like you usually see with streaks of fat in it, you don't need to do that. You're already going to have plenty of fat as it is. About 9 or 10 minutes go by. Still the heat's on 4 out of 1 to 10. And it's approximate because your stove's going to be different. You can see there's some color on this now. It's not burnt, that's for sure, but it's got some color. Now I'm going to crank the heat up. It's going to go up to about 8 out of 1 to 10. And we've got this vegetable slurry. I'm going to spread this down on the pan, kind of like I was cooking a pancake. But this is not going to turn into a pancake, despite the fact there's eggs in it. It won't cook like that. Just kind of spread it out with a spatula. That bacon underneath it, on the higher heat now. And I'm going to let this cook for... Okay, it's been just about 7 minutes now. I'm going to lift this up a little bit. You want to see that there's some browning here. You see that? That's what you want. You don't want it blackened, of course. We're not trying to burn it, but you want to get some of that nice golden brown on it. And you're going to flip it over and let it brown just a little bit more here. Still got the heat on 8 out of 1/10 on 8. It's fairly high. And after just a couple minutes, I'm going to flip it around some more. Now I'm actually going to turn the heat back down. I'm going to go back to 5, and I'm adding that butter finally now. This is that 30 grams, about an ounce of butter. And here's where the slow reduction on this starts to really happen. So we're going to stir this around. Now we're going to actually keep stirring it on a fairly regular basis. The heat down at 5, mixing that butter in, getting it cooked on all sides. And here's what it looks like after about 5 minutes. At this point, from the point that I turned the heat down to 5, it's been about 5 minutes, and it's starting to look more like a pilaf or like a stuffing. That's exactly what you want, but it's not done yet. We're gonna keep cooking this. You don't have to stir it constantly, but stir it frequently because you don't want it to burn on the bottom. This is what it looks like after about 10 minutes since I turned the heat down to 5. Now the thing is that it's starting to look like couscous a bit. The thing is that it doesn't need as much stirring once it starts to get like this. The heat in the pan when it was 8 was really wanting to make it burn. Now the pan is at a lower temperature. It won't burn so easily, so you can stir it every couple minutes. The last ingredient that will be added to that is the crawfish tails. Now you can get your own crawfish and cook them and shell them and everything. We're very fortunate in Russia to have packages of crawfish tails very affordable. Surprisingly affordable. Now, also want to have a little bit of sourness in this. I'm adding about a tablespoon of lemon juice to these crawfish tails. This is probably too much for most Russians. They're very, very sensitive to anything acidic at all. Acidic is interpreted as spoiled. So if you're making this for Russians, don't use a full tablespoon. Use about a teaspoon. But it's now coming up on 15 minutes. Now you have to adjust the salt level. I just tasted it and I can see it needs a little bit more salt. It's not a surprise. It will need salt at this point. I'm also giving it a little cracked white pepper, fresh ground, and we're just coming up on 15 minutes now. Now I'm going to add these crawfish tails, and I'm turning the heat off. This is only going to cook with the crawfish tails on for about 30 or 40 seconds because these are already cooked. And here it is. I just transferred it to a big bowl. Now I'm going to let this stand at room temperature for a little bit first, let all the steam come off of it, and then I will put cling film over it and refrigerate it. Now the first time you do this, it's cooled down now. The first time you do this, you want to experiment and see what you like. Put a little bit into a bowl and find out how much mayonnaise do you want. You also might consider adding some MSG to this. Yeah, I know I'm going to hear flack from that, but it really picks up the flavor. So mix a little bit of mayonnaise in, see what you think, and get an idea, and then you can go back and add about that same amount proportionally to the rest of it.
If you like my videos, look for my cookbook, now available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other internet bookseller sites. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.